You have made this decision before you even asked the question. Somewhere underneath the spreadsheet you built. Underneath the fourth phone call to a friend who will not actually decide for you. Underneath the 17 tabs open on your browser comparing options that all lead to roughly the same life you already know. You knew before you started researching. What you are doing right now is not decision-making. It is a performance. A ritual you run so that if things go wrong later, you can say you tried everything. This is the quiet epidemic of the modern mind. Not laziness. Not stupidity. The opposite, actually, an excess of intelligence turned against itself. You think in circles because somewhere you were taught that enough thinking eventually produces certainty. That if you just gather one more data point, read one more article, ask one more person, the fog will lift and the right answer will reveal itself. Gleaming, obvious, safe. It will not. Certainty was never coming. And the ancient Stoics, men who buried children, commanded armies, and were exiled from everything they loved, knew this 2,000 years before your inbox existed. They did not have more answers than you. They had a different relationship with not having them. Tonight, we are going to look at a man who carried the weight of an empire, a war he never wanted, and a mind that would not stop churning. And how he built, page by page, in a freezing military tent on a river at the edge of the known world, an entire discipline for silencing the noise. Not by finding better answers. By asking better questions of himself. Stay until the end because the method he used is not abstract philosophy. It is a working system. And by the time this is over, you will know exactly how to use it the next time your mind starts spinning. The year is around 172 AD. The place is the northern frontier of the Roman Empire, somewhere along the Danube in the provinces the Romans called Pannonia. A cold, wet, forested edge of the world, far from the marble and warmth of Rome. This is the setting of the Marcomannic Wars, a brutal, grinding conflict against Germanic tribes that would consume the final years of the life of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. Understand something about the man in that tent. Marcus Aurelius never wanted this life. Historical accounts describe him as a reluctant ruler, a man drawn to philosophy since boyhood, who once wrote that he thanked the gods for teaching him to endure hardship, to want little, and to do his own work with his own hands. He did not dream of conquest. He dreamed of study. And yet here he was in his 50s, his body worn down by chronic illness. Ancient sources suggest he suffered from stomach ailments and chest pain for much of his adult life, commanding legions in a war of attrition against enemies who would not stay defeated. Every day brought decisions that could not be undone. Which legion to reposition? Which tribal leader to negotiate with and which to refuse? Which of his own commanders to trust? In an empire where betrayal was not a paranoid fantasy, but a recurring historical fact. His own trusted general, Avidius Cassius, would later declare himself emperor in a rebellion while Marcus was still in the field. Add to this the ordinary, grinding decisions of governance. Appointments, laws, tax disputes, corruption among officials, arriving by courier day after day, each one demanding judgment, each one irreversible once made. A mind built like his, sharp, self-scrutinizing, trained since youth in rhetoric and law, could easily have collapsed into paralysis. The evidence, the angles, the second-guessing available to a man that intelligent were endless. He could have spent every night turning over yesterday's decision, dreading tomorrow's. There was, too, a burden pressing on that camp that had nothing to do with strategy at all. Historical sources describe a devastating pandemic, what we now call the Antonine Plague, sweeping through the Roman legions during these very years, carried back from campaigns in the east, thinning the ranks Marcus depended on to hold the frontier. He was not only managing a war. He was managing an empire absorbing a mass death event, with no modern medicine, no clear understanding of contagion, only reports of the sick and dying arriving alongside reports of the enemy's movements. Any one of these pressures alone could have justified endless anxious deliberation. Together, they made the temptation to freeze, to keep gathering more reports, more counsel, more certainty before acting, almost overwhelming. But something had been given to him decades earlier back in Rome that had quietly rewired how his mind worked. Marcus himself tells us about it in the opening book of his private journal. He credits his teacher, Junius Rusticus, with lending him his personal copy of the notes on the discourses of Epictetus, the teachings of a man born into slavery who became one of the most rigorous philosophers of his age. This detail is not invented. Marcus records it himself, along with a list of the specific things he learned from Rusticus, including not to be diverted by passing impulses of anger, and to write plainly rather than showily. What Epictetus taught, in essence, was a filtering system. Not a system for finding perfect answers. A system for sorting reality into two piles. The things that are up to us, our judgments, our intentions, our choices, and the things that are not. Outcomes, other people's actions, the past, the weather, the war itself. Nearly everything that fuels overthinking, Epictetus argued, comes from treating the second pile as if it belonged in the first. Agonizing over what other people will think. Replaying what you cannot change. Trying to guarantee outcomes that were never yours to guarantee in the first place. This is what Marcus was doing alone most nights in that tent. Modern historians and classicists broadly agree that the private journal he kept during these campaign years, later titled Meditations, functioned as a nightly discipline. Not a diary of events. A discipline of the mind. He was not recording what happened that day. He was interrogating how he had judged what happened, and rehearsing and writing how he intended to judge what was coming. He was, in effect, doing the sorting Epictetus described, pen in hand by candlelight on a war footing. Which of today's problems were actually his to solve, and which were noise dressed up as urgency. He was not chasing certainty about the war's outcome, or about whether his son Commodus would grow into a worthy heir. A fear historians note was already stirring, one that would prove tragically justified. He was narrowing his responsibility down to the only thing that had ever truly been his. The quality of his own judgment, decision by decision, in the only moment he actually had, the present one. He did not solve overthinking by becoming more certain. He solved it by becoming more precise about what certainty was even for. By morning, the notebook was closed, and the decisions of the previous night, however incomplete the information behind them, were carried out. Dispatches were sent. Orders were given. Not because doubt had vanished, but because doubt, once sorted honestly the night before, had stopped being allowed to reopen itself in daylight. That, more than any battle he won on that frontier, is the quieter victory historians and Stoic scholars point to when they read those pages today. A man who never stopped facing uncertainty, and never let uncertainty stop him from acting. Here is the hidden mechanism underneath that story, and it is worth sitting with, because it explains almost everything about why your own mind spins the way it does. Overthinking is not, at its root, a thinking problem. It is a categorization problem. Your brain is pouring enormous energy into questions that do not actually have the shape you think they have. You believe you are asking, what is the right decision? But underneath that, unconsciously, you are often asking something closer to, how do I guarantee this turns out well? And that second question has no answer. It never did. No amount of research closes that gap, because the gap is not made of missing information. It is made of the simple, uncomfortable fact that outcomes are not entirely under your control. Modern psychology has its own name for a piece of this. Decision fatigue, the well-documented tendency for judgment quality to erode the more decisions, and the more anxious deliberation a mind is asked to carry in a given stretch of time. Every unresolved loop you are running is quietly draining the same finite tank your important decisions need to draw from. The Stoic move Marcus was practicing is what philosophers now often call the dichotomy of control, and it functions almost exactly like a mental triage system. When a decision or a worry enters your mind, it asks one question first before any other analysis begins. Is this within my power to determine, or is it not? Your effort, your preparation, your honesty, your character, the care you put into a choice. Those are yours completely and no outcome can touch them. The result of the choice, how another person reacts, whether the market moves, whether the war is won, was never fully yours to command. And pretending it was is the exact source of the paralysis. This reframed does something psychologically powerful that most productivity advice misses entirely. It does not ask you to think less. It asks you to think about the right layer of the problem. Anxious overthinking usually happens on the outcome layer, spinning on futures you cannot see. Stoic clarity happens on the character layer, asking only, given what I know now, am I choosing with reason, honesty, and care? That question is always answerable. Today. In the present moment. Which is the only place, as Marcus reminded himself again and again in that tent, that any decision has ever actually been made. Notice too what the act of writing did for him. Externalizing a decision, putting it into language on a page instead of letting it loop, formless, in the dark of your skull, is one of the oldest and most quietly effective psychological tools that exists. A worry that stays unspoken in your head expands to fill whatever space you give it. A worry written down has edges. It becomes a fixed, finite object you can actually examine, argue with, and set down. Marcus was not journaling for an audience. He was journaling because an untethered mind, run purely in the imagination, will always generate more branches, more fears, more hypothetical futures than a mind forced to commit words to a page. This is the real inheritance of that cold tent on the Danube. Not don't worry. Worry is not the enemy here, and pretending it is will only make you feel like a failure for having a functioning nervous system. The real inheritance is this: stop asking your mind to guarantee outcomes it was never built to guarantee and start asking it instead to guarantee something it actually can. The integrity of your own judgment, made once, made honestly, and then released. Here is how you take this out of philosophy and into your actual week. 4 practices. Each one is something Marcus, Epictetus, or Seneca either described directly or clearly practiced. None of them require you to feel differently before you start. They work on behavior first and feeling follows. 1. Run the 2-column filter before you deliberate further. The next time you catch yourself circling a decision for the 3rd or 4th time, a job offer, a difficult conversation, a purchase, a relationship choice, stop and physically write 2 columns. Left column, what is actually up to me here? Right column, what is not? Be ruthless about it. Whether they will be upset goes on the right. Whether I communicate honestly and kindly goes on the left. Whether the investment goes up goes on the right. Whether I did reasonable, honest research before committing goes on the left. Here is the discipline. Once something is written in the right-hand column, you are no longer permitted to spend further deliberation time on it. Not because it does not matter, but because no quantity of your thinking will move it. You simply notice out loud if you need to, that one isn't mine to solve, and you redirect all remaining energy to the left column, the part you can actually act on. Most people discover, doing this exercise honestly for the first time, that 70 or 80% of what was keeping them up at night belonged entirely in the right-hand column. 2. Practice the view from above. This was one of Marcus's own recurring mental exercises, visualizing his circumstances from a great height, shrinking the moment down against the scale of the world, of history, of time itself. When a decision feels enormous, when your chest is tight and your mind insists this is the most important choice you will ever make, take 60 seconds and deliberately zoom out. Picture the city you are in from a plane window, then the country from orbit, then the turning globe itself, indifferent, ancient, the same globe that turned through the Marcomannic Wars and will turn through whatever you are facing now. This is not meant to make you feel small in a discouraging way. It is meant to correctly recalibrate scale. Most decisions that feel like life or death emergencies are, from that honest altitude, one choice among many you will make in a long life. Survivable, correctable, rarely as permanent as panic insists. Use this before any decision where your body is more activated than the actual stakes justify. 3. Keep the evening written review. Do not wait for a crisis to journal. Build the habit Marcus built nightly in a much smaller dose. 5 to 7 minutes, every evening, answering 3 fixed questions in writing. What decision or moment today did I handle with integrity, and why did it work? Where did I let a fear about an outcome hijack a choice that should have been about character instead? And what is the one thing tomorrow that is genuinely mine to act on? You are not journaling your feelings in a diffuse way here. You are running the same triage from step 1, but as a daily maintenance practice instead of an emergency measure. Over weeks, this rewires the automatic reflex. Your mind starts sorting mine from not mine in real time before the spiral even has a chance to start, because you have trained it page by page the same way Marcus trained his in that tent. 4. Set a decision deadline and honor it like a debt. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius about the single resource human beings waste more carelessly than any other: time. Pointing out that people guard their money and their property fiercely while spending their days as if they were free and endlessly replaceable, when in fact none of us knows how much of that resource remains. Overthinking is often, quietly, a way of spending time you cannot get back on a decision that a clear deadline would resolve in a fraction of the hours. So give every meaningful decision an explicit, written deadline. Not soon, but a date and ideally a time. When that moment arrives, you decide with the information you have, the same way Marcus had to send that dispatch, approve that appointment, answer that courier, whether or not the fog had fully lifted. Certainty was never going to arrive before the deadline. It was never going to arrive at all. The deadline is not a compromise on quality. It is what forces the 2-column filter and the character layer question to actually do their job, instead of running forever in the background, undefeated, unfinished, quietly costing you the very peace you were trying to protect. Try it on something small first so the muscle is ready when the stakes are high. A restaurant choice. An email you have been rewriting for a week. A minor purchase you have researched into the ground. Give it a 2-hour deadline instead of a 2-week one, and notice that the decision you make in hour 2 is rarely worse than the one you would have made in week 2. It simply arrives with far less wear on you. Confidence in this practice is built in small rooms before it is ever tested in large ones. None of these 4 practices asks you to feel calm before you begin. They ask you to act, to write the columns, to zoom out, to fill the page, to set the date, and let the calm arrive afterward as a consequence, the way it arrived for a man in a cold tent who never once waited to feel ready before he picked up the pen. Marcus Aurelius did not leave that tent on the Danube with certainty. History did not grant him that mercy. He would go on facing rebellion, disease, grief, and a war that outlived even his own patience for it. What he left with, what survives in the pages he never meant for us to read, was something sturdier than certainty. A method. A way of meeting each night's unresolved questions without being ruled by them. You are not going to solve overthinking by thinking harder. You already know this somewhere underneath the noise. It is why the noise exists in the first place, a mind straining against a wall it built itself. The way through was never more analysis. It was a sharper question. Is this mine to carry or not? And if it is, have I chosen it with honesty today in the only moment that was ever actually mine? That question cost you nothing to ask. It cost you everything to keep avoiding. There is a strange relief hiding on the other side of that question, one that most people never reach because they mistake more thinking for more safety. It is not. Safety was never available to Marcus, and it is not available to you either. Not the kind you have been quietly bargaining for with every extra hour of deliberation. What was available to him and what remains available to you tonight is something smaller and far more solid. A choice made in good conscience, released and left alone. Write your 2 columns tonight. Set the deadline you have been avoiding. Let the outcome be someone else's to determine because it always was. Your judgment, made honestly, was the only thing that was ever asked of you. If this brought you even a little clarity, stay with this channel. Every week we go back into the letters, the journals, and the lives of people who carried real weight and still found a way to think clearly, and we translate what they learned into something you can actually use tomorrow morning. Subscribe and let us keep building that mind together.